In this video, I'm going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 Pro. Yes, it's real. It was announced by PlayStation on a live stream about 24 hours ago. We're going to be going through the tech specs, performance improvements, cost, and really what you can expect from this system, along with our own thoughts on what we think about it. This is not normally a type of video that you would see on Fix for Life, but I do feel like it affects a huge amount of players. I am a huge PlayStation fan. I game predominantly on PC and PlayStation. Very, very rarely do I use Xbox or Nintendo Switch. So it's something I'm very interested in. And, there's a lot of hubbub swirling around this right now, particularly around the cost of this. And we're going to get into that as well and what we think about that. So first things first, let's take a look at the base stats of the PS5 compared to the PS5 Pro. They both have the same CPU. The GPU on the base system is an AMD Radeon RDNA 2. We do not know currently what the GPU is on the PS5 Pro. They didn't state that in the video, but they did say it has 67% more compute units and 28% faster memory than the base model. This is supposed to result in 45% faster rendering speeds. The RAM remains the same at 16 gigabytes of GDDR6. The storage is a 2 terabyte solid state drive versus 825 gigabytes on the base model. Highest resolution is 8K versus 4K on the base model. And the PS5 Pro is a bit slimmer than the disc edition of the base PS5. However, the PS5 Pro does not have a disc on it or disc drive on it, so you would have to actually buy one and add it, adding further to the cost of this system. Another thing they mentioned is that advanced ray tracing on the PS5 Pro is supposed to be up to 2 to 3 times faster than ray tracing on the base PS5 model, so that should look a lot better on that system. And they also mentioned an AI-driven upscaling technology that's supposed to improve the resolution fidelity of games as you're playing. Obviously, we'll have to see how that is in practice. Now, this system is supposed to launch on November 7th of this year, which puts it almost exactly 5 years since the release of the base PS5. And this is where things start to take a nasty turn for PlayStation and where you're seeing a lot of comments online about this, and it's definitely something I find fascinating, is that the price of this system is $69.99 USD or 79.99 euros in Europe. That is a lot of money for a console. That's the most expensive console ever generated or created. And we're not even talking about a brand new console. We're talking about the midpoint between this and a new console. So if you take a look at the discless version of the PS5, the base PS5 model right now, it's $450 to this day. So you can buy a base PS5 for $450, or you can buy this one for $700. And the disc drive model on the base PS5 is $500. And if you buy this and add a disc drive, I don't know how much the disc drive added to it costs, but we could assume it's probably like $100. So that's probably like $800 versus $500. So you're talking about that you're almost double the cost, maybe 75% of the cost to buy the PS5 Pro versus the PlayStation 5 base at a midpoint. And this is knowing that there's going to be a new console coming in the next 4 or 5 years. Now, there's two sides to this argument about the cost of this system, and I don't think there are very many people on one side of it, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. But I'll give you the other side first, the one that most people are taking about this system. This is a $700, 800 euro system that is definitely markedly better than the original. However, it's not twice as good. It's almost twice the cost, but it's not twice as good. What this would mean to me is that if you're somebody who already owns a PlayStation 5, you're probably not going to buy this console. Like, you already have a PlayStation 5. I don't see too many people going out and spending the kind of money on this system. Obviously, probably people like myself or others that work in the gaming industry will obviously have one because it makes sense. But for your average consumer, I don't think most of them are going to buy this system. And there are a couple of reasons for that. I mean, first of all, there aren't really any PlayStation exclusives around the corner that people are going to be jonesing to go buy this system and play. The examples of games they showcased in their video are all older games. They are not newer PlayStation games or games coming out next year. They're games that came out last year or the year before. So there isn't really any reason to go get this because of some upcoming title that's really going to take advantage of it. And I don't think anyone's really buying into the hype of this system, and that's one of the reasons. And the second issue, and maybe the more important of the two issues, is that inflation all over the world is very, very high right now. Things are very expensive. They've been getting more expensive. I live in Asia. Things here are expensive. I've been to the US where my family lives. I visited them recently. Things are expensive there. I've been to Europe recently for Gamescom. and to go check out some other games there. Things are expensive there. Things are expensive everywhere. And what that's resulted in is people really having to look at their financial situation and not make extravagant purchases. They're having to spend a bit more frugally. And if people already own a PS5, there's no way they're going to go, you know what, I can justify $700, 800 euros to go buy this if they already have that system when they're already struggling financially. And to compound this issue, I think this is the thing that's really, really driving it on top of those things, is that performance has been a massive issue in the gaming industry over the last couple of years. You're starting to see places like IGN do performance reviews separately than the reviews of their game, because it's hard to, really give a game a score and then judge its performance into that score. Well, I mean, what if the game's really good, but its performance is meh? Like, what do you do with that game? So they've started doing separate performance reviews, and other people have started doing this as well. And performance is a massive, massive issue in the gaming industry, particularly with the release of Unreal Engine 5 and the fact that even though the fidelity on that engine is better, overall systems haven't been able to handle it, and it's resulted in a lot of performance issues industry-wide. And the solution to this seems to be the PlayStation 5 Pro. It's not weird that PlayStation is making a PS5 Pro. They made a Pro version of their previous system. I went out and got that, was really happy to have that. The price was a lot more modest compared to what we're paying now. The price of a console has effectively doubled in the last 5 years. So it was a lot easier to justify that. And it's a lot harder to do that now. But it shouldn't be shocking that a PS5 Pro is here. I think what people are more shocked about is how much it costs, and the fact that it feels a little bit like, even if this is not true, and PlayStation 5 was always going to make a PlayStation 5 Pro, but what it feels like, it's like the developers saying, yeah, the game has performance issues, but it's your system. You need to go buy a better system because your system can't handle the games that we're playing, and there's nothing we can do about it. That is not the message that gamers want. Gamers are fed up with performance issues. The gaming industry at large is fed up with performance issues. Games are getting review bombed all over the place just because of performance issues, whether the game is good or bad, and telling them that the solution to that problem isn't optimizing for the current hardware. It's going to buy a new system so that you can play our very heavy games. That's a little bit what it feels like right now, and that's one side of the argument. Now I'm going to get into the other side of the argument. Now, the other side that I think very, very few consumers are on, and I'm just going to bring it up because I'm playing the devil's advocate, and I'm sure people will hate me for doing it, is that if you owned a gaming PC and you hadn't upgraded your gaming PC in 5 years, you'd be due for an upgrade. That's the reality. Technology advances at such a speed, you'd be pretty due for an upgrade. Maybe gaming PCs last a bit longer than they did when I was younger. We'd probably have to upgrade them every 2 or 3 years back then. But every 5 years, I think, is a realistic expectation to upgrade a gaming PC. So if this was a gaming PC, you would probably be due to do that. And if you just think that every single game that comes out moving forward on PlayStation is going to be more advanced, is going to use more graphical processing power because PCs advance, and that's what happens. Graphics improve, requirements improve over time, that the PS5 system is not going to be able to handle games moving forward at some point. It literally won't be able to run them just because of the advancements of the system, and you'll have to upgrade. And obviously, I think people are hoping that, okay, well, I just buy PlayStation 6 and that's the next PC. But gaming PCs don't typically last 10 years. I mean, you would be talking about if 5 years after PlayStation 5 Pro, they released PlayStation 6. If you didn't buy it, your effective PlayStation 5 would have to last you 10 years of gaming. And we don't expect that from modern PCs. So I think it's a little unrealistic to expect that from PlayStations as well. So that's the other side of the argument. You have two sides to look at. I'm definitely on the pro consumer side, but I definitely try and take this with a grain of salt. If I didn't work in the gaming industry, I wouldn't be picking up a PS5 Pro. It wouldn't be worth it in my opinion. There just isn't anything coming out that I'm super excited from PlayStation. Maybe if they had made this announcement after like a banging showcase of games that were coming, maybe it would have been received a bit better. But as it stands now, I just cannot recommend to anyone to buy this console if they already own PlayStation 5. If you don't have a PlayStation 5 and you're looking at getting a PlayStation 5, I think it's probably a no-brainer to buy this platform. You're talking about spending an extra couple $100 and you're getting a system that's easily going to last you until PlayStation 6. But if you already own a PlayStation 5, I just can't see anyone justifying this. And, the real icing on the cake here is that it says like vertical stand sold separately. We know the disc drive is sold separately. So by the time you buy those things, it's even more money than what it's listed there. And that's a lot of money for a console. And I really hope that like Xbox is watching this and learning from what they're seeing and maybe tweaks their presentation if they're working on a mid lifespan console, because I think there's a lot of people out there right now that are a bit pissed off at this situation. And something I should mention before I wrap up this video that I probably should have mentioned earlier is that, they mentioned that performance mode was selected 75% of the time on PS5 versus fidelity. That is a staggering amount. I always play on performance mode. I can't stand 30 FPS anymore. I'm one of those players that it's like 30 FPS, no thank you. This is something that has me very nervous about Avowed, that it's 30 FPS on console and didn't play very well on PC. I love gaming, but it's really hard to game on 30 FPS. But as you see these side-by-side comparisons of the graphical improvements when they're stopped and you zoom in, you can clearly see them. But the thing is, like, if they were running at full speed, it's much harder to see them. And if a game has performance mode currently on PlayStation 5 base, and you put it up against PS5 Pro, how much better is it really going to look to the naked eye when you're playing at full speed? That's really the question that I have. And is it worth buying a PS5 Pro for if you can barely tell? Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm sure that it's better. I have no doubt that it's better. But how much better is it? Is it really worth spending over the times, the amount of money the previous console cost or version, and then some on top of that for a little bit of noticeable difference? I definitely can't say that it is for me. But I want to hear from you guys. If you don't own a PlayStation 5, are you planning on picking up a PS5 Pro? If you own a PlayStation 5, are you planning on picking up one? What do you make of the price of this, considering it doesn't come with a disk drive or vertical stand? What are your thoughts on that? I really want to hear from you guys. This is a hot topic right now, but I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments below.